Washington state was hit by a powerful Pacific storm that brought heavy rain, stormy winds and early snow in the mountains from the coast of the Cascade Range. River along to I-5 corridor overflowed their banks and landslides blocked key roads connected Seattle, Tacoma and Bellingham. And the east torrential rain swept through the Sparkle region, saturating soil and that had already have been wrecked by the dry summer. Emergency service reported rescue operations in low-lying area along the Chiltese and the Scudder rivers. The water rose half a meter less than an hour. People and minutes, not an hour, say Battalion Chief Elena Ruiz and Puget Sound Fire Department. Along the coast, storm force wind knocked down trees and power lines, leaving tens of thousands of people in the dark and forcing some ferry service in Puget Sound to suspended operations. On the bases, heavy wet snow and freezing rain turned snuggle men and stallions into dangerous corridors. With God, crews rocket through the night to clear standard tracks and remove virulent hazards. Travel is possible but not only absolutely necessary, warned spokesman. The storm's impact fell in the form from the Yakima Valley to Columbia Basin, where they went through the orange need to standard water threatening late Aprils and hoops. Fish biologists also experienced concern about the salmon's spawning grounds to rapidly rising streams, erode fraudulent graving bottoms. This is powerful burst of energy and difficult to young salmon and the Queensland. Meteorologists linking to even to atmospheric river to cloud subtropical moisture to calibrate the deep low pressure system of the coast, which can square the several days with the rain in the middle of hour. Officials urged residents to avoid flooded cars, roads, check on the neighbor and prepare to few danger on the ground or remain unstoppable. As the sky clear, attention turns to recovery, restoring power, clearing debris and reinforcing river banks before the next Pacific rain arrives. For many Washington residents, the storms was a stark reminder changing coastline on the community ability to come together when it matters cost.
₹2
Washington is assessing the damage after the parent Pacific storm flooding in low-lying area and dumping heavy snow on the Cascade, flooded landslides and hailstorm widespread power outage. Along the Cherub and Snohomish River, gullied exceeded flooded stage overnight, flooded forums and isolated rural communities. The water rose like 10 train, said Alicia turned in a mountain baron. They moved lay stock to chain parking to them, water reached to barn door. In Seattle, Tacoma, gust of winds broken branches to poles, hidden light rail service and canceling dozens of flights, where cleanup crews speed up across the major roads. For cancellation spread throughout the Puget Sound and the coastal town of Joaquin to Long Beach, struggled to deal the waves spurted over the temporary embankments. High in the mountains, snowglades and Devon Pass become bottlenecks. Overturns drag, avalanches buries and change require for travel along statements. Considered it a clear shoe may occur without warning. Warning, WS. Spokesman Caleb Morita. Ranges of mountains, heavy rain, pounding speckle country where water-loaded sloped slid into country roads and basements were flooded in minutes. Hospitals reported a sharp increase in storm-related injury, including forced carbonate moxidons, poison in indoor generation, and hypothermia among the motorists standing on the roads. Utility crews restored service in neighborhoods at the time, but the official warning to raking in soil the trees could continue to fall even after sky cleared. Environmentalists think the washed-out travel bus could destroy early establishment settlements, polling grounds, undetermined to future recovery. Apple to hope growth in the Yakima Valley assessment standard water to end the damage. With the small related travel inventory, losers are here to holidays. Forecasters linking to even a powerful atmospheric river feeding to deep coastal depressions, ideal conditions to intense locally exhaled rainfall, with the possibility another front-loading emergency official urged residents to avoid flooded roads, photograph damage, and increasing climate to keep emergency kit ready. As the immediate threat subside, Washington incident to slow parks, reappearing leaves, subsiding slopes, and strengthening state in the first line in the Pacific storm track. Washington state is experiencing one of the most severe storms in recent years, which lasted several days, destroyed coastal towns, caused rivers to overflow, and covered cascades with heavy snow, prone to hailstone avalanches. Authorities confirmed at least 9 deaths related to the storm, dozens of injuries, and thousands of displaced people in western and eastern Washington state. In the key of Peace Country, overlapping streams in the south suburbs, living homes uninhabitable. I lived 40 years and never seen like this, said Howard Kim, the related teacher from Uber. I felt like nature was redrawing the map. Emergency service conducted more than 300 water rescue, many of whom cars abandoned to flooded highways. The Puget Sound region experiencing hurricane force wind that uprooted century old trees and damaged power lines. More than 315,000 customers were without power, and a peak this storm and outdoor continued several days in rural communities. Further service was suspended, isolated. Israeli residents to SeaTac Airport canceled nearly 200 flights. In the east, the Yakima Valley suffered damage to orange, to apple, and growers deterred millions of dollars in losers. In the Spokane country, unsteppable slopes collapsed onto roads and railways, complicating rail transportation, which is vital to Northwest economy. Hospitals in the Spokane and Tacoma reported sharp increase in the number of patients hospitalized due to the storm. Environmental issues are becoming increasingly relevant. Rising water level destroyed salmon spawning ground and storm surge damage vulnerable coastal wetland. The resilient salmon population is better tested more and more each year. Meteorology is linking the storm and intense atmospheric flow often there. Referring of the Pineapple Express with the delivery subtropical moisture directly to northwest, followed by the warm water on Pacific Ocean. Such a system are becoming more frequent and intense. Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency throughout the state. Mobilizing National Guard are promising assistance and families of farmers. However, recovery will take much longer and simply restoring power and clearing landslides. For the many Washington residents, this storm highlighting the harsh truth. The Pacific Northwest alone has estimated rain and now forcing storms complicated different magnitude. This week, Alaska was hit by a rare violent wind that brought hurricane-force winds, heavy rain, and dramatic gales breakup, resulting in billions of dollars of meltwater rising down the rivers in the state capital, Juneau. The system caused significant damage from the inside passage of the south-central communities, forcing people to evacuate, halting ferry service, and leaving thousands without power. In Juneau, a sudden release of water from Suicide Basin above the Mid-Hole Glacier caused the record rise in the river level significantly exceeded previous night. City officials, with the support of federal agencies, installed the miles of temporary borders, including Hesco-type earthworks and southern walls, with the officials said prevented much more damage in the hundreds of priority through road, riverbanks, and the small bridge were ordered to damaged by debris. Residents were temporarily evacuated, with the emergency service monitoring the rapidly changing water levels. Elsewhere, hurricane-force wind uprooted trees, tore off roofs, and damaged power lines in the Anchorage and the neighboring areas. Representation from the NOAA and Regional Meteorological Service note the common amid forecast to be above average season in the Atlantic in 2025 caused the high sea surface temperatures and the cloud conditions conduction of the storm formations. These conditions make villages and advanced preparation particularly impact of the year. Residents in low-lying coastal area should check evacuation routes to secure loose outdoor items. The precautions. A powerful storm system has battered the state of Texas and led to days of torrential rain, destructive winds, and flash floods that have left a trail of destruction across both urban central of rural communities. At least 20 people have died, hundreds have been injured, and thousands displaced of water raced rapidly across more than 14 countries. In Houston, intense rainfall overwhelmed the drainage system. Buffalo, Bayonne, and White Oak, Beyond's bridge the banks, flooding highways, submerged vehicles, and turned residential streets into rivers. Officials confirmed over 1,000 water rescue with emergency shelters went quickly to floodwaters in waiting homes. In San Antonio and Austin, with exceeded 16 million hours, down the trees and power lines, flash flooding caused clothes and businesses, while entire neighborhoods lost access to clean water. Basin County issued evacuation order for low-lying area as the river rose historic levels. Governor Greg Abbott issued a disaster declaration to deploy the Texas National Guard and a state emergency service. Texas is racing, but the storm was pushed many communities to the brink, and he started. Residents along the North California coast are making at least minutes operation on Hurricane Helene stranger its north-southwestern United States. The storm, now a Category 3 hurricane, continues to grand stretch with a sustained by winds of 120 km/h. Forecasts are warning of potentially devastating consequences as Helene moves within the few centimeters of the region. The National Hurricane Center was updated in devastation, warning that Helene could stretch further before the making rainfall. The storm is expected to bring dangerous winds, heavy rain, and significant storm surge that could lead to widespread flooding, especially in low-lying areas in the coast. Authorities have issued a hurricane warning for the large parts of the North California coast, urged residents to evacuate to take all necessary precautions. Evacuation orders have already been issued at residents in the outer coast, including popular tourist destinations such as Kitts Island, Arcot Island. Evacuations shelters have been stopped in the entire of island, and local authorities are working with the Red Crescent. All organizations provide safe housing to evacuate. Ferry service between the islands have been suspended, and the highway traffic were increasing dramatically, over residents rushing to move island before the conditions deteriorate. North Carolina governor has declared a state of emergency, mobilizing the National Guard and other emergency personnel to help with the preparations and a potential recovery. This is a larger and dangerous storm, Cooper asked during press conference. This week, a powerful storm swept across much of Alaska, bringing hurricane-force winds, coastal waves, and a dramatic glacier collapsed a flooded low-lying area in the state capital. Emergency service working throughout the night and clear roads, restore power, and reinforce riverbanks while the communities assessment the damage. In January, a long-awaited breakup of the Mediterranean glacier caused meltwater to flow into the Mid-Hill River, leading to record-high water levels that flooded yards and damaged small bridges. Authorities announced that a hospitably constructed system of temporary barriers protected hundreds of homes from much worse damage, and the residents are urged to follow evacuation instructions to weather warning. For the west and across south-central Alaska, storms wind knocked down trees, power lines, and forces of cancellation and flights and ferries. In Anchorage, a surrounding area's crew responded to dozens of wind-related incidents, and thousands of people were briefly left without power, and key transportation links were disrupted. Airports reported diversions and cancellation on the runways were lifted in debris. Ferry service where sea levels rose and ports were damaged. Utility crews rushed to restore power, and search and rescue teams cleared blocked highways. Scientists and local leaders said the event highlighted changing climate dramatic in Alaska. Rising air and ocean temperature, Elias sulfur and permafrost through the cloud intensified storm, increasing runoff into glacier basin and wetting coastal definis, making floods and wind disaster more frequent and destructive. Experts are calling the long-term investments, permanent protection of rivers, approached evacuation routes, and improving monitoring to Clover Lakes. When the wind died down, in the urgent task was recovery, pumping water in flooded yards, repairing power lines, installing bridges, and acing the damage in small businesses that had suffered the loss of tourists and transportation. For many communities, the southern storm was a stark reminder of the climate change in Alaska is already attempting the rhythm of life, and that more powerful a long-term resilience issue will be needed to protect homes, infrastructure, and livelihood. A powerful Atlantic storm that formed near the Cape Worth Island in the tropical storm Erin is rapidly changing for the forecast to become the first hurricane in 2025 season, moving northwest toward the West Atlantic. Models show the system could reach major hurricane range over the weekend, causing concert to Bahamas, Bermuda, and other parts of U.S. East Coast in the coming week. Forecast emphasizing to uncertainty about the exact routes, but most forecasts indicate that the storm will pass in north of Caribbean, creating the white cone of possible approaches that could cause large waves, dangerous currents to coastal life flooding in southwestern mid-island coast without making landfall. Coastal communities are already being advised to monitor updates to prepare the dangerous waves and beach erosions. Meteorological that rapidly intensification is possible to Erin entire warning waters and relatively favorable wind conditions, with the key coastal tropical storm turn into much more destructive hurricane in a matter of days. This complicates the task of emergency service will be must hit the worst-case sensation scenarios while avoiding false alarms. Models show the possibility of the rapid intensification, a major hurricane of area moving west-northwest, increasing uncurrent from the island communities in the East Caribbean, and a rapid likelihood of dangerous wave of the currents along the U.S. East Coast. Even the storm center reminds the offshore emergency management emphasizes the dangerous hurricane conditions. Large waves, coastal erosions, and life-threatening currents can occur before the far from any landfall. Following his advisory to survive probably through the arrival times, Gulf and Southwestern flood risk outside in the eye, along with the tropical threat to separate area of concentrated moist to the West Gulf and the advanced coastal area in the causing heavy slow-moving showers. Flooding remains the leading cause normally in the tropical system, when the weak tropical disbalance can cause flash flooding in urban corridor in low-lying coastal plains. Local medical service in the Persian Gulf and the Southeast prioritize flood prevention, clearing drainage system, precautions pump, and updating evacuation notice for vulnerable communities. This week, the United States is experiencing unstoppable weather, from the intensified Atlantic hurricane threatening coastal waves to intense connective outbreak to inland areas and unusual late summer atmospheric river reporting to flood in the Pacific Ocean coast. The variety of hazards, hurricane force winds to the sea, torrential winds, inland flash floods, and destructive winds gas is testing the resilience of emergency service and highlighting now the definite parts of the country must prepare to the very definite threat at the same time. In the Atlantic, tropical storm Irene was quickly developed into LEM track system and the forecast to become first hurricane on the season this weekend in the same moves west-north across the one way. Forecasts say it could rapidly intensify, complicating planning for the island communities to the coastal area along the West Atlantic and Bermuda when the center does not reach in the East Coast. Broad waves and the threat to reach current could cause dangerous south to the coastal flooding in some areas on the East Coast. Official and meteorological services are urging residents to closely monitor update. Brisbane, green body, and a white oak brow overflowing stimulation, a rate of devastation scenario. Entire neighborhoods were submerged. Emergency crews performers of 1,400 rescue using e-boats to helicopters to reach extended residents, many trapped off rooftops in the attic spaces. San Antonio and Austin facing flash floods that swept through the major roadway and overwhelming storm drains. In the country, mobile homes were washed away. Downtown Austin was so powerful through a building evacuation in wind gusts exceeded 17 millihours. Schools, hospital, and drainage system across the region helped operations. Governor Greg Abbott activated the Texas devastation of emergency management, deployed National Guard troops, and declared a statewide disaster. This is not an isolated weather event and a climate emergency unfolding in real time, he said during the press conference. The National Weather Service issued level 4 flood warning of much of southwestern central Texas, warning the continued danger due to extended soil, rising rivers, and through the rainfall expected for the lightning storm bands. Climate scientists for the Rice University and University of Texas confirmed the record Gulf temperature helped of the storm's intensity. Meteorologist Dr. Kaisen Lutz said, "We're seeing storms that are rather slower and destructive, all classic signs of the climate change." Damage assessment that ongoing by preliminary estimates suggest over 3 billion in losses to infrastructure, agriculture, and private property. As sky begin to clear, tens of thousands of Texans new particularly related to rebuilding homes, communities to sense safety amid the growing weather uncertainty. This week, Alaska has been hit by violent storm and damaged coastline, knocked down trees and caused sudden waves in the midway from Great Session Lowland area. From Juneau to Anchorage, emergency service rushed to clear highways, restore power and reinforce river banks, while the residents assessment damage, searching for missing pets and the salvaged family heirlooms. In the capital, a dramatic geyser breaking down in Mid-Hill catchment area, causing the rapid flood weight in overflowing local protective structures to cause the record water level in Mid-Hill rivers. Residents of area near the riverbanks reported flooded yards and badly damaged small bridges. Quick action to authority and volunteers helped prevent more casualties. Across south-central Alaska, hurricane force winds uprooted century-old poor streets and broke power lines, leaving thousands of people without power for several hours. Airports and ferries were shut down to runways and narrow were cleared to debris. Communities that depended to maritime transportation immediately felt in the impact. Officials said unusually warm air in a period atmosphere intensified system caused strong winds and more intense coastal waves than predicted. Alaska glacier breaching January 7 local hazards. In January, a glacier lake outburst from the Mid-Hill drainage system caused debris to flow down the river, overflowing temporarily proactive structures to flooding low-lying yards and at least a small road bridge. Rapid melting and sudden outflows from the glacier blocked basins and the increasing problem in the warming Alaska. Warming summers area should melt. In the increasing precipitation can fill ice-blocked lakes more quickly, increasing the likelihood of flash floods that occur without warming. City service and volunteers rushed into reinforced riverbanks and removed debris, while the residents of the most affected area were temporarily evacuated until authorities get the all clear. The incident highlighted the need to regular monitoring the corrosive basins to improve public warning system in the area. There were no the risk in the ice jams. Pacific Northwest unusual atmospheric river in August. The rare atmospheric river in August is forecast to bring prolonged wet weather to western Washington, Oregon, and southwestern British Columbia. Forecast agencies have warned to rainfall among the coast while the weak water precipitation in some mountains was shed in a matter of hours. Torrential rain and severe thunderstorm battered much of Texas, caused widespread flooding, property damage, and mass evacuation in several counties. The multi-day weather event caused a slow-moving low-pressure system, causing chaos in the such as Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and parts of East Texas. Horace County received more than 300 mm of rainfall in 36 hours, causing bayou, drainage canals, and flood control reservoirs to overflow. The Buffalo Bayou and the Bryce Bayou overflowed, flood residential area to force an emergency service to conduct more than 500 rescue operations in Greater Houston area. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in more than 13 countries, mobilizing Texas National Guard and activating Emergency Operations Center. This is not just heavy rain, Abbott said in a new conference. This is live threatening flooding that require immediate action. In Austin, flash floods turned roads into rivers, blocking vehicles and forcing dozens of water rescue. Several low-lying crossings were washed away, and the schools in Travis County were closed to safety reasons. Meanwhile, in the Dallas, floods warned heavy rain overflowing through drained, closing major interstate highway, including sections in I-35 and I-20. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning for most of central southwestern Texas, northern the saturated soil, and additional rainfall could prolong to the crisis. Experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warned that the climate trends to contributing for more frequent and intense rainfall for southern United States. At the same time, tropical turbulence in the West Gulf of Mexico and the area high humidity rose the risk of flooding along the Texas coast and the neighboring region. Local forecasts indicate heavy concentrated rainfall. It could cause the flash flooding in low-lying area and urban area. Even the system never reached a full tropical cyclone stretch and reminded that flooding not wind in the most common cause to death during the tropical threat in U.S. coastal plains in the southern Texas speeded up to preparation and monitoring the timing of the possibility landslide. Inland, severe storm brought destructive storm live winds, lightened to localized flash flood to parts of the Midwest and Northeast. Rich episode to fallen trees, down power lines, and temporarily impossible highway. In Connecticut, intensified evening storms dumped several inches of rain in short period of time, caused localized flooding in hundreds of brief power outage with the utility quickly restored. Emergency officials emphasizing the importance to hitting rapidly issue warning about the flash flood and severe thunderstorm, especially in the summer when storms intensify quickly.